Hi guys, and welcome back to Elizabeth Ann Reads. I'm Anne, and as you can see, I've got my bookshelves behind me again. I am back in Oregon for a visit, and this is where I left my shelves and most of my books. So I thought I'd take advantage of the shelves and film a quick video talking about my March TBR. Now, since I'm in Oregon, most of the books I'm planning to read in March are back in Tennessee, so you'll just have to make do with pictures on the screen instead of the actual books. For the most part, I do have a couple here that I picked up that I'm going to take back with me. But yes, let's talk about March. March is primarily, for me, going to be middle grade March, which is probably why most of you are here. But I am going to read two books that are not middle grade. So I'm going to hit on those real quick, and then we'll go on to talk about the middle grade. So first of all, for Chantel's Read Your Bookshelf Challenge, the prompt for the month of March is growth. So it can be something growing on the cover, something related to growth in the title, or just something related to growth in general in the book. For that, I'm going to be reading The Last Garden in England by Julia Kelly. This is a historical fiction. I think it's dual timeline, or actually I think it may be 3 timelines. You have a present day in which your main character is, she's hired to renovate a garden at some famous estates or something. And so then you have a timeline in, I think, the early 1900s when the garden was originally planted, and then also a World War II timeline. So yeah, I thought that tied in well with the growth prompt. And then for the Buzzwordathon, the prompt is a location in the title, and for that I'm finally going to be reading A Gentleman in Moscow by Amor Towles. I'm sure you all know what this is about, but in case you don't, it's about a man who I believe is placed under house arrest, and he ends up spending his entire life living at this hotel where he's under arrest. And so it just kind of follows many years of kind of what's going on in Moscow, all from the perspective of his life in this hotel. Could I have found middle grade books that fit both those prompts? Yes, but I wanted to include a couple other things. I want to keep working my way through my 22 books I want to read in 2022, so I decided to mix in a couple things that weren't middle grade, but then everything else on my TBR will be middle grade. Also, I am going to be including just a set number of middle grade books on my official TBR, but I have a whole nother stack of things that I would love to get to during the month if I have time, stuff from the library, other stuff that's not maybe the highest of high priorities, but I would still like to get to them, so we'll just kind of wait and see what I get to during the month. But I am planning on these 8 books specifically. The first is the group read, which is Pony by R.J. Palacio. I don't really know anything about this book. I believe it just came out last fall. It is, I think, an adventure story about a boy going in search of his missing father. Looked interesting, and I'm going to give it a try. Then I have books to cover the 5 middle grade prompts. I'm going to link all the middle grade March info down in the description box, just in case you don't know about it. But it will all be there, as well as the other 2 reading challenges that I mentioned. All that info will be below. Okay, moving on. The 5 challenges for middle grade March. The first is to read a book with 5 or more words in the title. And for that, I chose My Diary at the Edge of the World, or My Diary from the Edge of the World, I think is what it is, by Jodi Lynn Anderson. I think this is like a fantastical version of modern day US. Like, it's modern day, but includes dragons and mermaids and such. And I believe this girl, the main girl, her brother gets taken, and so she and her parents go in search of the missing brother. But I believe they do it in a Winnebago, which is just fantastic, and I think that's going to be a lot of fun. And I think it's epistolary. I think it's told in journal entries. So I think that should be really fun. Then the next prompt is a book with an orphan main character. For that, I'm doing another fantasy, Peter Nimble and His Fantastic Eyes by Jonathan Auxier. He is the writer of Sweep, which is one of my all-time favorite middle grade books, and I just haven't gotten around to this one yet. This is about a boy who, I think he's a thief, and accidentally steals magic eyes. That's really all I know. But I think it'll be a lot of fun. I think I've got some fun stuff lined up for this month. The third prompt is a book with a that's either set in Asia or with an Asian main character. For that, I have yet another fantasy, A Wish in the Dark by Christina Soontornvat. Her. And this is a fantasy world that's inspired by Thai traditions. And I believe it's a story loosely based on or inspired by Les Mis. And that's all I know. So it's a fantasy version of Les Mis set in a fantasy world inspired by Thailand. So that should be fun. All right, the next prompt is to read a contemporary, and for that I'm going with one, Speck of Truth by Kayla Carter. I've read 2 books by Kayla Carter, one I really, really liked and one I really, really didn't. So hopefully this is a winner. I believe this follows a girl who lives with her mother. She doesn't know her father, has never known her father, and then her mother decides to uproot them and move them to Portugal, where she and the father met. So that sounds really interesting, and it's not fantasy. So there you go. And then the last prompt is to read a book that is older than you, or that was basically published before you were born. For that, I chose The Singing Tree by Kate Sarady. This is the sequel to The Good Master, which I read a couple years ago for middle grade March. That one is a Newbery Honor book. This one, or a Newbery winner. That was a Newbery winner. This one's a Newbery Honor book. And this just follows a family. It's set in Hungary. So you get some of the, it's just a fun look at their culture and how things are different there, were different, and, how they grow up and just the ins and outs of life in Hungary at the time. I believe this was published in 1940, I think. So definitely before I was born. Then I have 2 other books on my TBR that don't fit a prompt, or I'm not using them for a prompt, but I really, really, really want to get to them in March, so I'm including them on my official TBR. The first is The Book Smugglers by Anna James. This is book 4 in the Pages & Co. series. I'm sure you've heard about this series. Follow our main character lives with her grandparents in a bookshop, and she has the ability to go into books and as well as pull characters out of books. I won't give you much more information than that since this is the 4th book in the series, but I definitely want to get to that. And then the last thing I have on my TBR is The Last Quintista by Donna Barba Higuera. I believe is how that's pronounced. This is the Newbery winner from this year, and I've already heard a few people talking about it and just raving about it. This is a science fiction story that focuses on storytelling, from what I understand. A group of people are sent to a new planet, basically. Things don't always go smoothly, or don't go smoothly at all, but our main character wants to be a storyteller, and it's about stories and remembering, and it sounds really fascinating. Also, the cover, I think, is just gorgeous, and I'm really excited to dive into this one as well. So that is what I'm officially reading for the month of March. I'm sure there will be other things mixed in there as well. But yes, let me know what you are reading for middle grade March, because obviously I need more suggestions of what to read during the month. But let me know if you have something that you're really, really excited about reading. And thank you for watching.